Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to this one-room schoolhouse. You can see it's very, very different from our classroom. And it goes with our new unit, past, present, and future. So this would be a schoolroom of the past. There would have been one teacher and all of the grades in the same classroom. They wouldn't have had a huge school like we do now. You can see some big differences. The desks are very different. I don't see any computers or smart boards, just a chalkboard and simple desks. And not a lot of extras. Even on the walls, there are posters. There are pictures of some famous people. This schoolroom is very different. You can see the stove in the middle that they would have burnt wood in to keep the classroom warm. So we'll be talking more about how schools were long ago and schools are today. In your book today, you'll be working on page 7, and it's a dictation page, working with long O, which can be O-A, O-E, O-W, or the O with a magic E, or open syllable O. The first word is boat. So that one would be with our O-A, B-O-A-T, boat. The second one is snow. So that would be sn, O-W for the O sound, snow. The third word there would be loaf, which would be L with the O-A, loaf, like a loaf of bread. The fourth one is roast, which also has the O-A, roast, roast. And the sentence is, the old toad will grow. Here's another way to have a long O. And the word old, when you have the old with the O in front, the O is long. The old toad, that has the O-A, will grow. O with the O-W, don't forget your period. That's your dictation on page 7. Now let's look at another famous person and what life like was for them long ago when they were young. And we're going to look at Abraham Lincoln when he was young. Yesterday we looked at George Washington. We want to thank Scholastic for giving us permission to read these books. This one is written by Andrew Woods, illustrated by Pat Scories. Young Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States. Lincoln did not start his life being rich or powerful. He was born in a log cabin in Kentucky on February 12, 1809, and there's his very simple log cabin he lived in. Abe had an older sister named Sarah. Abe and Sarah and their parents had a farm in the woods. And look how they're plowing the field there. Very different than tractors of today. They would have been using a horse to help pull the plow. Life in the wilderness was hard. There were many chores to do. Abe fetched water from the creek. He couldn't even go and turn on a faucet. He had to carry a pail down to the creek to get their water. He chopped firewood and helped his father plant seeds. Several miles from the Lincoln home was a one-room schoolhouse, maybe a little bit like what we're sitting in here. Look, they had to walk several miles. There wasn't a bus to pick them up. Abe was very smart and he loved school. But there was so much work to do on the farm that Abe and Sarah went to school for less than a year. Abe, though, kept learning even though he couldn't go to school. He studied at night by the light of the fire. When Abe was 7, his family moved to Indiana. And look how they traveled. They didn't have a moving van. They had a covered wagon. We'll be learning more about that next week. It was winter when the Lincolns arrived in Indiana. Young Abe helped his father chop down trees and build a snug cabin. Abe was only 9 when his mother got sick and died. The cabin was very lonely without her. A year later, Abe's father got married again. Abe's stepmother was named Sarah Johnston. She had 3 children of her own. Soon the log cabin was a cheerful place again. Abe liked to joke with his stepmother. One day he brought a small boy with muddy feet into the cabin and walked him up the wall and across the ceiling. When Mrs. Lincoln saw the footprints, she laughed and wondered how this could happen. As he grew up, Abe never lost his love of learning. He even read when he was plowing. He read while he was plowing his father's fields. Books were hard to get back then in the wilderness. Sometimes Abe walked miles to borrow a book. Once Abe borrowed a book and got it wet. He worked for 3 days to pay for the damage. Abe grew up to be tall and strong. He could chop wood faster than anyone. He earned money by splitting logs for fences. Abe was also a great storyteller. People loved to sit and listen to his funny tales. When Abe grew up, he tried many different jobs. He worked as a farmer and a carpenter. He worked on river boats and in a sawmill too. Then Abe opened a store. One day, a man came in with an old barrel to sell. Abe didn't know it, but that barrel would change his life. Abe bought the barrel. In it, he found a book about law. Abe read it every chance he could. Now Abe knew what he wanted to do. He would become a lawyer and help people. A lawyer named John T. Stuart helped Abe study. It was hard work, but Abe was determined to learn. Finally, the day came when Abe was ready to practice law. Stuart made Abe his partner. Soon, Abe became very successful. But being a lawyer was not enough for Abe. He wanted to help people in other ways. So he held several government offices too. In 1861, Abe became the 16th President of the United States. Abraham Lincoln was president during the Civil War. This was a very sad time for the country, but Lincoln kept the nation together. Then, just as the war ended in 1865, an angry man shot and killed President Lincoln. Thousands of people wept when they heard Lincoln was dead. Today, many people still visit his memorial in Washington, D.C. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about young Abraham Lincoln.